Hello guys, how's it going? AlexTheGrumpyOne here, and today we've got another bit of the full service. So this is the part on the oil and oil filter change. So in this part, this is going to be the same for all the 2-litre TDI engines, not just the Scirocco one, as you already know probably. So I'm going to show you how to change the oil, how to replace the oil filter, and how you should do it to make sure everything's done properly. So first thing first is the oil. Now you might have slightly different oil, double check it, and you might use a different brand as well. This is the brand I've been using for ages. There's also a couple of others that I use, but I'm happy with this one. And you do need to check with your reg number or your VIN or the engine number to make sure you got the correct oil depending on the year of your car, because it's not all the same. And also depending where you are, what country you're in as well, because it depends on the weather as well and the temperature, and depends if you got DPF or not. So do check that, please. Make sure you put the correct oil in there. And also the same goes to the oil filter. There's a couple of different oil filters, but I'm going to put the links for these items that I've used today anyway in the description below, as I usually do. So like I said guys, if you're interested in the quick video on the oil filter and oil change, please stay tuned, comment below, like the video and subscribe to my channel. Right, so before I drain my oil, I usually like to warm up the engine, let it run to normal operating temperature, and the reason for that is obviously it's advised as well to do it. It creates different viscosity on your oil, it drains more oil and it drains it quicker, and like I said, it drains more oil out of your system, and that's what you want to get rid of as much of the old oil you got in there as possible. If you drain it cold, you'll see that the oil got different viscosity, it takes longer to drain, and you're not going to be able to drain a lot of it out of there anyway. So the other thing I have been asked, obviously the intervals. You got a long life. I know a lot of people do long life, but I don't like that, to be honest. I like to drain it every 10,000 miles on the diesel cars, and every year, obviously. Depends which comes first, and depending how much you've been using your car and how you've been using it. Long life, there's a lot that can go wrong in 20,000 miles or 2 years, so I don't really like that. I like to check my car and do it every year. That's my advice. You obviously do whichever you think is better for you. The other question is engine flush. Some people ask me, would you do the engine flush in the car? Now, this is a complicated area because engine flush is good. It does help get rid of all the rubbish inside your, well, most of the rubbish inside your engine, and it does restore it, as they say. But if your car done over 80,000 miles or over 100,000 miles or more, I definitely don't recommend doing it unless it's been done every service until then. If the car has had engine flush every year, not an issue at all. But if it's never been done, and now you put it in there, it cleans all the rubbish away, it changes the clearances, it can cause a massive issue on your engine, especially if you got the chain engine. In this case, we have got a Campbell engine, which is good, but if you got the chain engine, there is issues they can cause, especially if the car done over 100,000 miles. So the car is up to normal operating temperature. I got the oil there, the oil filter. I usually take the oil cap off to make sure that I know that I'm draining the oil. It's something that I do at work, so don't worry about it, and pull the dipstick out. We will have to take the cover off, and there's one screw that we have to remove and get one bit off to be able to get to the oil filter that's located up here. I've got a special tool for that as well that I'm going to show you in a second. So the oil, usually 2-litre TDIs take from 4.3 to 4.7 litres, or sometimes 4.5, so 5 litres should be more than enough. And obviously the oil filter, you have to check that you got the correct one. I know this one should be the correct one because it matches the engine code, so that should be all good. So the tools you're going to need for this job, guys, you're going to need 90mm socket for the draining plug. You're going to need Torx 30 to remove one of the bits that you need to get out of the way to get to the oil filter. It's not necessary, but I do advise as it helps doing the job. So you can see I got all my Draper tools here from my kit. They're going to put the link in the description below. There's an adapter, the 32mm adapter from Draper Tools as well. They're going to use for the oil filter housing to get the plastic cap off where the oil filter is. And just a ratchet from Draper Tools again, and the torque wrench to do it up afterwards. You have to torque up the sump plug they have to undo. You have to torque it up, it's important, and you also have to torque up the oil cap that you got on top here for the oil filter. Like I said, it is important. I will put the torque settings in the description below. So to get to the oil filter is the first thing that I do, and loosen it up. Take this cover off. There's usually 4 rubber bits that hold the cover on, so you have to pull them off, give it a bit of wiggle, and there you go. So obviously you got the injectors and all the stuff here, and where we need to work is on this side. So the oil filter is located down there. I don't know if you can see it well, but there's a big nut shape there, the bolt shape at the top. That's what we have to undo, and that's why we got the special socket for 32 mil. So to make the job easier, you can just use the plastic bit there to get this sensor out of the way. You'll slide off, and that will give you enough room. But usually what I do, I remove the bracket they got there, but I'm doing this Torx 30 that you can see there. So if you undo that, it just gives you a bit of extra room when you're pulling the cap off of there and getting the oil filter out of there. Once that is out of the way, 32 mil socket extension, get it on there. Like I say, it gives you more room, and loosen up the oil filter. Don't undo it all the way, just enough to drain the oil off of there while you're draining the oil out of the engine. So it creates less mess when you're going to pull out the oil filter out of there. So just loosen it up. It starts draining the oil into the engine from the housing. Right, under the vehicle, what you have to do is obviously take the belly pan off, the undercover, whatever, everyone calls it a different name. Anyway, the cover needs to come off. That's the point. So you got usually, well, most of them usually are missing, but anyway, you got Torx 30 here. Then one is missing there already. For some reason, it's got a 10 mil on there anyway. So you just have to check what you got. Usually they are all there. They are the Torx 25. All are on there. Oh, actually that's missing there already as well. There's a cable tie holding that. There's another one there, another one there, another one there, another one there. So take them, all of them off. Usually you got another one on the front holding that on there, but that's not there. So we'll get the cover off, and then we'll be able to get to 19 mil. So I'm just going to do this real quick. Right, so I've done all the screws, and obviously all that's holding it in there is this bits, plastic bits, the locators. Make sure when you put it back on, you slide it in the same way as you can see it here, because if not, you can either break it when you start driving on the motorway, or you'll get a lot of banging noise. So just slide it off. Once that is off, get out of the way, and you got the 19 mil there, as you can see. So this is our engine oil drain plug, and you also got a washer on there as well. So for this job, you can either buy a new one from your car parts or somewhere else. So obviously find somewhere where you're going to drain it. In this case, I'm lucky enough to have a proper drainer ready here. Undo it. Once you've undone it, you can let it drain for about 5 minutes. You'll see that it will soon stop draining once all the oil is out of the system. So after about 5 minutes, all you have to do is obviously either put the new washer on there or use the old one and torque it up. And I will put the torque settings in the description below. So now that we drained all the oil, we finally went down. I've put the belly pan back on, but I do recommend leaving it off and going for a drive first after you've done all the job to check for any leaks from the sump plug. But I know it should be fine. So I'm going to get the oil filter out of there now. Like I said, it's been draining all this time, so it shouldn't create a lot of mess. It's still going to be dirty, obviously. It's a bit fiddly, but it will come out. There you go. So while we're here, you can obviously double check. So by the way, this is the part number that you got on the oil filter that I'm using. So just double check that the oil filter is correct, and yeah, it does look correct. So the oil ring on there as well. There's another O-ring here, the rubber one, and that will be in a box. Make sure you do replace it. As you can see there, put a bit of oil around it to make it easier to do it up. And don't forget, this is 25 Newton meters to do this up. So what we're going to do now, we're going to leave this for a second. We're going to remove this oil filter off of there, chuck it in the bin, make sure you dispose of it correctly, guys. Right, so now we're going to check that everything's nice. Here, there's no damage on it. Fit the new O-ring, put a bit of oil around it. Make sure it goes in the correct place. I usually slide my finger on them to make sure it's nice and even on there, so it's not on thread or anything. And have a look at the oil filter. And as you can see, that will lock it in there. So squish it on there. There you go, that's locked in. And it's ready to go back in there. And then obviously use the extension with the 32 mil socket on it to do it up and torque it up to 25 Newton meters. There you go, that's cracked. Lovely. So I'm gonna get the bracket back on there using this torque 30 and put the sensor back on as well. Put that back on there, slide the sensor on there. As I mentioned earlier, this is my oil choice. I know not everyone likes this oil, but I've worked with this oil for the last 8 years and I never had an issue with the cars with this oil. So just make sure you got the correct oil, because if you have got DPF, it needs to be a specific mixture of oil so it doesn't create ash and doesn't block up your DPF. So do please make sure you got the right oil for your engine. Lovely, that should do to start with. So there, get the cover back on there. Don't forget, obviously, double check the oil level. Push it back in there. Just clean it off first, in case there was a little bit of old oil in there. Push it back in, 3 seconds. Lovely, got nice and clear oil on there, so it's literally on the max. So it will drop a little bit, obviously, once I started the car up and it filled up the oil filter. So you're going to start up, run it for about a couple of minutes and double check the oil level again. Right, so I had the car running for a couple of minutes. I'm going to double check the oil level again. Check for any oil leaks around the oil cap here that you got at the top. And also don't forget to have a look if there's any oil leaking from your sump plug. But I'm pretty sure if you've done it up properly using your sump plug, or even reuse the old one, you're not going to have any oil leaks. But please do double check that after a quick drive. Once the service has been done, you might have already the warning light on. When you turn the ignition on, it says service interval. That means obviously you're overdue to your service, or you might have a reminder. And there's also inspection reminder, and I'm going to show you today how to do both of them. Now there's a couple of different ways depending on the year of the car. There's one that you can do by turning the ignition off by pressing and holding the set or 0 button or the O button. So you press and hold it, turn the ignition on, it will reset it, but that resets the service light. There's also another light sometimes that you can get, which is the inspection light. And to reset that light, on some cars you have to press and turn on the hazard lights on, and then do exactly the same. You have to press and hold the set or 00 button or the O button, turn ignition on, and it will come up with the inspection reset. Now on this car I have got only the service light on, and this one actually can be done through your buttons that you got on the steering wheel, and I'm going to show you now how to do that. Right, so what you get is you turn the ignition on, you get the checks, and then it comes up with service now. And to reset it, like I said, you can use the 00 set button by turning ignition off, pressing and holding it, and turning the ignition on. It should reset, but in this case you have got the buttons on your steering wheel, and what you have to do is press OK, and then you go to the right into the settings, as you can see there. Then just go down into the service interval, press OK. You got the info, obviously that one's overdue, and you can go there, and as you can see you got the reset there. Press OK. It asks you if you really want to reset the service, and I do advise on doing this after you've done the service on your car. So you press OK, service reset, go to the info, just double check, and there you go, that's that done. Reset for another 10,000 miles pretty much, and a year. And like I said, sometimes you can have the inspection interval, and to reset that you will need to press the hazard lights on, or you can use the diagnostic tool. And the same is if you want to change your intervals from the short, obviously this is a short interval, but you can change it to the long interval. You will need diagnostic tool for that. So here we are, that is the oil and oil filter change done. I hope you enjoyed it, found it helpful. Like I said, all the torque settings in the description below, but I also obviously mentioned them in the video. So it's nice and easy, 4.5 liters of oil pretty much in this one. Make sure you get the right bits as well for your engine code, for your reg number as well. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the guide. If you found it helpful, do comment below, let me know. Or if you got any more questions as well, do let me know. Like the video, you can share it with your friends if they got 2 litre TDI or 1.9 TDI. I'm sure it'll be helpful. And yeah, thank you very much for your time and watching the video, and I'll see you soon. Bye.